Greetings, magnificent souls, to the Attract Health, Build Wealth podcast, where we have open and honest discussions about ourselves. This is a place where we break down, break away, and break through codependency, allowing ourselves to attract health, build wealth, and live a peaceful life. We are tired of being sick and tired. We are tired, but we are not giving up. We know that there is something magnificent inside of us. And because we are fighting daily, hourly, and by the minute, fighting ourselves, our kids, our spouses, we have to do things differently. We have to break this cycle. We don't have a million chances. We have to be happy now. We have to find a way. So how do we do that? How is that possible? If you look around at what society is telling you, they tell you that what we're doing is impossible. Yet it's happening every single day. And it's happening through the practice and the love that we call awakening the magnificent soul. We are all magnificent souls, and these are our stories of healing. Today in episode 49, I'm so happy to have Rebecca Chapman on the show. Rebecca and I really connected in this conversation about childhood emotional neglect. Obviously, we talk about codependency and lots of good bits in between. But before we get into the discussion, don't forget to let me know your thoughts about this episode, any feedback you have, or anything you'd like me to cover on future podcasts at epiphanyvault.com. Remember, it is a safe place, and I would welcome the discussion. And also, one thing before we get started with Rebecca, the Codependency Meditation audio is a free resource that I made, and it's still available for you for free if you would like some peace from codependency. If you've been following me for a while, you know that meditation is a big piece in my soul maintenance toolbox. So I thought I'd share a little bit of that goodness and love with you. So to access the Codependency Meditation audio for free, just go to the website and there's a link on there for free resources. And I will also link it up in the show notes as well. I hope you enjoy. And today, a little bit about Rebecca. She is a calmness and resilience therapist based in Queensland, Australia. Rebecca works with clients all over the world to do the deep work that really works. And she focuses on childhood emotional neglect, like I said, and has a pretty inspiring story of her own. So here's Rebecca Chapman. Thank you again, Rebecca, for coming on the show today. So I wanted to start off with the standard question that I do with all of my guests, which is, what do you know about codependency, or how has it touched your life?
I have had a codependent relationship with my parents, I would say, since I was born, but the term didn't come around until probably the early 2000s, late 1990s. So up until then, I had no word to call what it was. And I still think it intertwines with a whole lot of other things in people's lives. Now, it is something that a lot of my clients have. I deal with people who've had childhood emotional neglect, which doesn't mean you haven't been loved. It just means that you haven't been heard as a child. And I find that my clients fall into three categories. They either go into flight, which means that they run from their parents, push their parents away, and for the rest of their life push people away. Or they stay and fight. So you get people who become very aggressive, assertive, angry. And the third biggest category is fawn, which is actually where you are codependent, and it's almost a disease of assertiveness, where you haven't learned to be assertive.
What did you? So sorry, I'm going to interrupt. It broke up a little bit. What was the third term?
Fawn. Just, when you fawn over somebody and you pretend everything's okay. And so that's the disease of assertiveness, where you haven't been allowed to be yourself as a child. And so I find in my work, and probably I've attracted a lot of people like it during my life, is people who haven't learnt who they are and will say or do anything to please the person who they're talking to at the time. So they will, whatever movie you want to watch, or they'll suddenly like the hobby that somebody else has got. So I end up with these people who don't have any idea what they like,
Mm-hmm.
what they dislike. They probably sometimes don't know what job they're good at because they're doing a job that someone else has suggested that they do. They're in a relationship they thought they should have. They're having children because they thought they should have them. But mostly, yeah, when some of the first questions I ask them are even really simple ones like, what's your favourite food? If you went to a supermarket, what would be the first thing that you would want to buy if you didn't have to shop for anyone else? And the people can't answer this because they've been told that their needs are secondary to someone, and they will be attracted to people who will take advantage of that. So, yeah, it's been a huge, huge part of my life, and a lot of it's been learning for me. I had a very type A upbringing, so it was all about succeeding so that my parents looked good, doing really well at school, which I did, going to university, got married, had children, and at 30 I had a stroke. And that was when I learned that I wasn't what I did, and I wasn't about appeasing other people because I couldn't do anything. I was lying in the bed and they were playing The Truth About Cats and Dogs on repeat on the video because they thought I couldn't even understand that. So I had to learn to be, and to learn that I wasn't what I could do for other people, and to allow other people to do things for me. So for me, the universe chucked me a huge lesson because I was just going to keep careering on, you know, helping people and doing what was right. So I had a nasty lesson, and my job, I think, is now to make sure other people don't hit that point.
I love that.
And to not let them become codependent on me. So to learn as a therapist when I work with them that I'm not going to let them. I'll sit there in silence until they tell me what their favourite colour is. And I'll sit there for half an hour if that's needed. And to just watch them rediscover parts of themselves they lost as children.
I think that you have been following me for all of those things that you said at the beginning was point for point. I can't list off exactly what you said, but I was pushed into looking a certain way for other people.
Absolutely. I forgot that one.
Yes. Well, that's what I mean. I was pushed, I feel like, in a career that was supposed to be good for me or pay the bills or look good on my resume. I can't remember all the ones you list off, but I really feel like that you were following me through my life. So it feels good. Because, with the codependency that I've experienced was extremely alienating, right? So even if you're in a relationship, like I was in an 8-year codependent relationship, it's amazing how alone you can feel.
Yeah. The thing is that you've lost yourself.
Yes.
And that's the greatest loneliness.
Right. That's
even if you're in a fantastic relationship, although a fantastic relationship, they might help you find yourself. But it's so lonely. And you can see that other people have something else, but you're not sure what it is. So you go back to what you were told as a child was, if you look this way, if you speak this way, if you act this way, if you be nice, and, all this, then you'll get that elusive something. But when you've been brought up like you have and I have, you feel like you have this fatal flaw. That one day someone's going to find out. So you're desperately trying to cover it up with all this other stuff. There's no flaw. And I think too, one of the biggest lessons with my codependent clients and myself has, skip my mind. I'll come back to it in
No, that's okay. I want to, go ahead. No, please go.
No, ask me a question.
Okay, well, I was just, I wrote down some notes as you were talking, and I loved also that you mentioned about, family of origin. It's not that you weren't, and again, for me, I just speak on my experience and my reflections, and what kind of got me thinking about what you said about that was today in my awakening, I like to call it, but I know I was loved, but I don't feel like that I was nurtured, and, a lot of things suffered because of that, whether that be, I can, all the categories: physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, intellectual, book wise, I'm on point, but
Yeah.
intellectually, like emotional intelligence, that those things weren't nurtured.
No, and it's a bit of a sign of the times too. So I have to take that into account, because that was very much it back then. But it's to be heard and understood and seen. And case in point, I have a daughter who I'm a tomboy. I liked motorbikes. I liked all sorts of stuff like that, mechanics, engineering. I've got a daughter who loves makeup and fashion, which actually is normal in my family. And I had to learn with her, when you have a child, you don't have a mini-me.
Mm-hmm.
You have a person, and they're tiny, but they're little personality. And so I've got sisters who enjoy what my daughter enjoys. So part of my nurturing her was to let her spend time with them. And I think that's where a sense of community is important too. But just as a parent, you need to recognise your child's differentness, not as something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but just as them, and teach them to accept it, and also too that they have personal power. I think when you're brought up with no emotional intelligence, your personal power is taken away, and maybe because you were very intelligent and you asked questions that they didn't want to answer.
Mm-hmm.
No, I find that with a lot of kids who've asked, why should I do that? Or why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. Why do we have to visit Nana every week?
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite confronting for the parents. It's very, very difficult to raise all of your children with emotional intelligence, your own emotional intelligence and their emotional intelligence, without feeling like you failed.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I heard. Yeah, and I'm doing a lot of inner work on myself right now, because for so long I had just gone all the way to the sympathetic, I guess, and forgot about it, and can't really recall a lot of memories. And it's not, for me, it's I don't know, it's just a lot of things that I'm noting right now in writing my book. But I heard a lot of do as I say, not as I do. I heard a lot of because I said so, things
because
like,
I said so.
Yeah. And so what you said, about mini-me, I'm actually, just writing about this right now, is that, they work so hard to make them not like themselves that, that it, in essence, they're, disconnecting from themselves, right? They're not owning who they are. They think that they should be a different way. They're insecure. They have a lot of shame and fear, under there. And that just manifested in me as well. So,
especially if you're an empath, yeah. And the other important thing to remember, because sometimes you want to get together with your siblings and talk about this, but the experience between siblings is vastly different.
Yes.
Vastly different, dependent on their personality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I remember now what I was going to say. The thing that I try to get across is it's not something wrong with you, and it's not wrong to be different from your parents, and you're not going to hurt them, or because as a child you rely on them for food and shelter and love. Mm-hmm. So for you to think differently to them is a scary, scary, scary proposition, because your lifeline can be cut off, and you can carry that intense level of fear through to being an adult. So you can act as if your life depends on it still. And that you can't be who you are, or else you're going to hurt someone else, or you're going to bring someone else's world down, or something else. So it's huge. Mm-hmm. It's huge. And part of the work I do is teaching people how to scale it, so that it's not either 0 or 10. Mm-hmm. You can disagree with someone at a 2.
Right.
And it's not going to end the relationship, which is what adult women usually worry about. If I disagree with him, or if I say what I want, or if I say what I need, he's going to leave. I'm going to be abandoned. It's more, Yes, not everything's that finite.
Right.
But it's not a problem. It's not people say, how can I fix myself so this doesn't happen to me? And I tend more to say, let's find you some people who won't take advantage of that. Let's teach you how to find some healthy friendships. Where you can be yourself, you can be kind, you can be all those wonderful things that you were as a child, but still be yourself.
You know what you said about not wrong. So I also, and I think it had a lot to do with my codependency, is I operated in black and white like my whole life. Right or wrong, there's no gray area, no, I couldn't understand, if things were wrong, then I would just disassociate from them, forever. So I also just want to say, like, and I don't even know if I need to say this or why it came in my head, is that even though you may have had, and this is just coming from my experience, but even though if you may have had bad experiences in the past, doesn't mean that they were wrong. Like in talking about my parents in particular, I'm sure it will be very eye-opening and they probably hopefully they'll be able to accept my point of view. I don't know if that's the case, but it doesn't mean that they were wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm right. This is my perspective, so I don't even know kind of why I wanted to say that, but I think the first step really is to kind of try to internalize, I guess, where you are, right? Like we talked about before, you talked about self-worth. You talked about a lack of identity, which I think is huge, which is, it's along, everything parallels, like it's along the same lines as, identity and what you said before. But I don't know. I just wanted to say that not everything is black and white, because I always thought, I always thought that it was, so.
A lot of my clients are either okay or angry. Or okay or depressed, or okay or we have to actually find language in the middle. Some, angry can be frustrated, disappointed, upset, and you can be upset at someone, and it's not the be all and end all. It's not the end of that relationship. It's not like, oh, okay, boom, you're gone. But I think that's also true from sometimes when your parents, as a small child trying to appease your parents, because my sister didn't care what they thought, and neither did my other sister actually, but I deeply cared what they thought. But I didn't know, I was always trying to read what they were saying to work out, what was right, what was wrong, trying to always analyze everything everybody said to work it out. And I guess I was told that you were intelligent or you weren't. You were beautiful or you weren't. I remember once I asked my dad if I was sexy, well, not in those words. He was talking about some woman and he just said no. So, it was just, no, I'm not, and so you're fat, you're thin. And my family spoke like that a lot. Very much so. You're a good person if you're intelligent, and you're a good person if you're beautiful. Or you went to the right school, and I married a lawyer, which was just the biggest disaster in the world, if he's listening. And but it's not black and white, and there's all different shades, and just reteaching people to state what they want. Now that scares people when I first say it, but it's baby steps. It's almost, for me, my job is reparenting and being accepting and having people learn that they can tell me anything. And it doesn't make, and I was nearly going to swear, but it doesn't make any difference to me, which is how it should be with your parents.
Right. Yeah.
You can hold a different opinion to me. You can even tell me that what you think I've said is not true, and we'll speak again. No, we'll speak again, and I'm fine. And also learning that in healthy relationships, people want you to state what you need. In a healthy relationship, the other person doesn't want you to always agree. They want to love you. They want to learn about you. They love the differences between you and them. And that took me a long time too, because in my family, I was probably, it was who are you like in the family, and then that was your little niche. And I think I also had this is what women do, this is what men do a little bit too. So having said earlier that I loved engineering, I loved motorbikes, I was such a tomboy, but women didn't do those careers. So I did primary teaching initially. Actually, I did that to piss my dad off, but that's a whole nother thing. And he wanted me to be a lawyer. And so it's really tiny baby steps. And when I send my clients to do something for themselves, like go to see a movie they want to see, perhaps by themselves, it's such an effort. So also being gentle with yourself during the process of this, and that you're not actually trying to fix yourself, you're coming back to yourself. So
okay.
Yeah.
So So about 5 minutes or so left. Can you elaborate more on a little about some tools to do that, what you just said? Anything that you would recommend? I have a couple podcasts where I talk about kind of my toolkit, which again, I don't think is right or wrong. I think that it's a, personal preference and what connects with you. But do you have anything, go ahead.
I do. Actually, the very first few sessions, I send out a few practical things, which is a book of emotions. And it's got lots of different words for the key emotions that we learn as a kid. I have a little sheet that people initially hate filling in, because initially it's really difficult to find the emotion that you feel. So I'll say to anybody there, if they get it from me, I don't expect you straight away to be able to do it, or else, But in the morning, you write down 3 emotions you feel, or 2. Lunchtime, 2. Dinner, 2. So it's just checking in with yourself about how you feel, and also not judging that emotion, like you said, as black or white or good or bad. And then another list which I have, which is really benign, which is just start thinking about what things am I good at? What things am I not good at? Because as kids, it would be a rare parent where you come home and say, oh, I was picked last for sports, which I was all the time. And your parent would say, well, maybe it's just not for you. That's fine. Let's find something that is for you. So to be able to say, you know what, I'm really, really crap at drawing. Crap. My 3-year-old daughter laughed at my drawing of a cat, and to go, that's okay. It's okay. That's okay. So we talk about, what did you love to do as a child that made the time go? All those things. Also, get into your physicality. Walk.
Yes.
Yoga. Something. Go outside. Because as a codependent person, or anyone who's suffered trauma, you live in your head. And you tend to neglect your body.
Yes.
You are your thoughts, and you're constantly trying to analyze what somebody meant when they sent this text, or what did they mean when they said this, or were they really trying to say this? And it's such a waste of time. And so if you can get out and walk, do something you love, I don't care what it is, 5 or 10 minutes, have that activity, so that if you ever find yourself overthinking and trying to work out what other people meant, can just go and do it. So I ask people to list 5 things. List 5 things that you can do to break the circuit.
Cool.
I cook.
That's awesome.
Cook, anything like that. So it's more about just go back to basics.
Yeah.
Go to basics.
Yeah. I love that.
You can actually. No.
Oh, I was just going to say, I kind of call this my toolbox. So I love those suggestions. And I think we are going to close it at this point, even though I know that we can go on for hours and hours and hours.
It's fine.
I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, Rebecca. And I'm sure some of my listeners want to find you. So where would they be able to find you?
on my website, which is www.alifeinperfectbalance, all one word.com. And I actually have a free, at the moment, because of the virus, I have a free 30-minute chat.
Oh, cool.
So we can have a chat, and they can see if we suit, because that's also really important with therapists, is that that we gel.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm, in that 30 minutes, I'm really happy to offer any advice, especially at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, but that's really just my silly sense of humour,
Yes.
more than any help. But my website's the place to go. And there's also a contact form, so just shoot me. And you'll get me. You don't get a secretary or anything like that.
Good.
So, but I'd love to chat, because I'm so passionate about helping people with this.
Yes. Well, it's been such a pleasure. And I think I found you on Instagram, and I do like your silly sense of humor. So it's appreciated on this side. And if you're out there, listeners, I will link everything up on the show notes, so you'll be able to find Rebecca easily. But thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you next time. My pleasure.